I'm Jon Bond. Welcome to Move Yourself Happy. Made for fitness enthusiasts who want to make their passion their profession. Are you unhappy in your present job? Are you passionate about health and fitness? Do you want to release your true potential? If the answer is yes, this podcast is for you. I will be teaching you the specific knowledge that every trainer and coach needs to be successful. So listen closely as I share my expertise with you. So just like me, you can love what you do. Okay, up next we have a great guest today. We've got George Horlock from George Horlock Coaching. Before we go into it, I just want to first apologise because whilst I was interviewing George, it started to rain. So from about 15 minutes to about 17 minutes, so just a couple of minutes, you're going to hear some rain, which unfortunately is raining on the microphone. So you might find it slightly irritating. But as I can assure you, it's only a couple of minutes and there's some great content in there. So stay tuned. George,
hello, mate.
Let's get straight into this.
Looking forward to it.
Tell me about George Horlock Coaching.
Love to. Mate, George Horlock Coaching, I mean, you've been there from the start as well yourself. You actually helped me set this all up in the first place. I was a personal trainer for 10 years, actually, when I decided to do George Horlock Coaching. I realised I could reach a larger, broader audience by going online, reaching people all over the world. I have a small YouTube channel as well, and there's lots of people on there who are interested in my holistic health practices, and I thought that they would be a great target market, rather than training people who I just trained because they were available. You know, they might have had goals that I didn't really connect with at the time, or would have been better suited for another trainer who specialised in those goals. Whereas for me, I set up George Horlock Coaching to help people with the goals that are also my goals. So being vegan or aspiring to be vegan, to build muscle and not be the stereotypical vegan who is a little bit more scrawny and doesn't go to the gym and prefers to just be in a field banging a drum, singing to the cows, you know?
Which you do like doing as well, by the way.
I absolutely love doing that on the weekends. Yep, you will always catch me in a field.
Yeah, awesome. So you work with vegans, but also aspiring vegans, don't you? So if somebody's thinking about making the transition, it's a funny word to use, transition, for this, isn't it? It's a kind of a...
Yeah.
That is the correct word, isn't it? Transitioning to becoming vegan.
Yep.
There's obviously going to be challenges they're going to be facing, and you'll help them navigate those challenges as part of your program. So it's not just the training, it's some of that as well.
Yeah, definitely. It's like I say, if you're aspiring to be vegan, then I'm more than happy to work with yourself. You don't even need to make the full transition to work with me, and there's never any pressure. I'm not going to be militant about it and force you to change your entire life and your views on the world and how you see the earth, animals, fitness, training, nutrition, all of that. I'm just going to be a guide, and I'm going to say, you know, this is what I'm doing, this is what works for me, this is what works for people that I work with. Jump on board, and if you want to go the full way, fantastic. If you just want to go partial way and see how it works for you, crack on with that as well. There's no pressure. Like I say, that you don't have to be vegan, but I like to work with people who are interested in consuming a more plant-based diet, because certainly with the evidence out there now and the likes of, I mean, there's a fantastic Netflix documentary, The Blue Zones, that we were speaking about recently. I think the world is slowly shifting to a more plant-based way of eating, and it's certainly,
the stats show that, don't they?
The stats show that it's definitely healthier. And I think a lot more people are interested in it now. But what people are quite concerned about is, if I go vegan, can I still build muscle? And the answer is, you absolutely can. And so I'm there to help those people through that.
Yeah, that's almost like the premise of what you do, isn't it? Because actually, let's talk about that, because when we started working together, like helping you construct your online business, we kind of went down a slightly different path, didn't we? Because we were trying to figure out, who is it that you can help? And we started to think about you as a young lad, and when you first started training, the challenges you faced and how you overcame them. So can you just talk about through that bit, that process that we went through?
Yeah, definitely. We were talking about what inspired me to get in the gym in the first place and stuff. And we spoke about, I had a tough time at school, and I loved superhero films at the time, and all the way through my childhood I was obsessed with superheroes, and I was always drawn to the strong male kind of alpha characters in that, who would dominate the villains and the enemies, and they'd have a shirtless scene and they'd have the six-pack going on, and I just found it super cool. And as a kid, I mean, my dad's got loads of videos of me dressing up as we all do, all the different costumes. And then just as I got older, I realised, okay, unfortunately I can't be a superhero, but I can certainly try and look like one, because all these Hollywood actors go through the same regimen and they always come out looking more or less the same, I'd say. If you look at
they do, yeah.
The shirtless scenes, they just always look like they're in phenomenal shape.
Big shoulders, big arms.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And so they're all doing the same thing. And I realised, well, I've always wanted to look and feel like a superhero, and I do now, in my opinion. How can I help other people to do the same? But something didn't feel right about it, did it? I remember having a few conversations about this.
Like we had a couple of moments where we kind of got excited, didn't we? And we're like, oh, this is cool. We're going somewhere now. We're drilling down your target market. We figured out who your avatar is. This is who you were. But it wasn't... There was something about... I could see the way you were reacting to it, that it wasn't coming from your heart, was it?
Yeah.
So why was that, do you think?
I think it's because it's not who I actually am as a person. I don't wake up every morning, jump in front of the mirror and think, I want to look like a superhero. No. And also when there's a new Marvel film out, I'm not rushing to the theatre to watch it.
No.
I'm not. I like it. I think it's cool. But I'm more interested in the fitness side of things and not actual superheroes. Yeah,
it was a bit childish for you, I think.
Yeah,
that's what got you going originally.
Yeah, because when I was building my program,
and a bit commercial.
I was doing lots of posts on it, and I was referring to the guys on the program as heroes, and it never quite felt right. Saying, hey hero, how's it going? It felt like I was talking to maybe like a 10 or 12-year-old. Yeah. I wanted it to be a lot more professional and meaningful, and that's where it all stemmed to eventually, didn't it?
It did. And it's a shame we're not videoing right now, because there's a sparrowhawk just hovering in the background that's completely distracted me while you were talking.
Wow, it just dived.
He just dived and caught something, didn't it?
I think he's just caught a mouse, which wasn't very vegan, but...
No, get back here. Yeah, so that's great. And so we then started to think things out, and we were like, well, hold on, so who are you? Who is it who are you? What are you known for? What's your best... I guess talent, passion, who can you help? And who do you want to help as well? Like, that was the thing, wasn't it? And that then evolved into...
Yeah, George Horlock Coaching, which was essentially helping vegan men to get strong and muscular, because I knew I wanted to help men become strong and muscular, but I didn't know what kind of guys. But then I realised 9 times out of 10, people always come up to me and it's the same comments, oh, George, you're actually really strong for a vegan. Oh, George, I would never have guessed that you're vegan. Did you hear about that, George? He's actually vegan. Oh, yeah, George, what's your workout plan? Oh, and then someone will call from the background. Did you know he's vegan? What? No, you're not. You're not vegan. I thought, well, I'm being completely honest, that feels quite good when people say that.
Yeah, it should do. Because when I first met you, you're really into your calisthenics. Well, you still are, aren't you?
Yeah.
But I remember watching you do stuff on the bars and being like, damn, how's he doing that? Especially when he's a vegan. No, I don't know if I actually thought that. Maybe a little. I don't know. But I had the similar sort of bullshit stereotypes. I had that in my head. And I would be a bit like, oh, okay. And it does get people, it perks people's interest. They'll suddenly go, oh, because you can read about stuff online, you can look at YouTube videos, but until you see someone that that is following a certain lifestyle and clearly is getting good results from it, that's when you start listening and going, oh, okay, I need to pay attention to this guy. And I think that's what you've got, haven't you?
Exactly. And without going too deep into this stuff, but I am into my activism, and I feel like I'm a walking activist when I hold what I refer to in my program is your homegrown suit of armor, right? If you're walking around with it and people are noticing it, and it is one of the first things people say, if you are wearing a t-shirt that might be a little bit tight on the old pecs and biceps, people will make a comment. And when they know you're vegan as well, it inspires people rather than moves them away. It doesn't make them feel threatened. It actually makes them feel quite comforted. And, maybe this vegan thing isn't so scary after all, because on the media, it's all you see. Vegans charging into all these different places and throwing paint everywhere and getting aggressive. And it's like, well, hang on, I'm not doing that. I'm sat here living my life, trying to be the best person that I can be. Veganism is part of that. And as a result, I can still be strong, healthy, and happy.
And you would argue as well, and I know I've got my own personal thoughts on this, which I would like to share, not to make it about me, but just to show that I actually kind of reinforce what you say.
Yeah.
But you would argue that not only are you able to do all this whilst being vegan, but actually it's helping you.
Absolutely, yeah. I would actually argue that it's been proven, not just that it's my opinion anymore, but that it's just completely proven now that a vegan diet is the optimal diet. And I know that sounds like a very broad statement, a bold statement, should I say, and there's people are going to come at me for that, and there's so many diets out there.
They're already switching off, George.
Exactly, right? They're already like, he said it.
Next podcast.
Yeah, right. But veganism isn't even a diet, it's a lifestyle. And I think that when you live that lifestyle, it can have such a dramatic change on everything, from the way you see other people, from the way you look at nature, from the way you look at animals, to your own health, which is, I think, something that your viewers might be interested with regarding your health, because me and John spoke about veganism for quite some time, and you didn't really jump on board until your health was at stake. If you want to,
no, actually, that isn't correct. I found out that it. Okay, let me go back.
Yeah, tell us.
So I suppose really, you could have called me an aspiring vegan man when you spoke to me when you first met me, when you started grooming me.
Yep. That's for another podcast.
Yeah, it was basically that I'd always kind of thought it was slightly odd, because just to make it clear, so before you guys do switch off, my dad was a butcher, so we and my parents owned a butcher's. We lived in a massive meat-eating household, and I loved it, absolutely loved it. And we would consume meat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. My dad brought meat home, loads of it every day, and I loved the taste of it, and I couldn't imagine having a meal without meat being part of it. It would just seem alien. And I would listen to that, like this, real men eat meat kind of thing, and it was always branded that way, wasn't it? Like you eat a big steak, and I remember if I went to the harvester, I'd always get a mixed grill because I knew you'd get a ton of meat, and I associated meat and muscle growth for years. Even so, as a youngster starting to train, it was all about meat. And I used to follow Charles Poliquin a lot, and he was a big name in the strength and conditioning world, and I worked out once, based on how much protein he thought I should get per day, I needed to buy a kilo of chicken, and I was buying a kilo of chicken every day and getting through that every day. So I was spending a lot of money on meat. So anyway, I was a big meat eater, but I was always a little bit curious about the idea that, is this right morally? Should we be doing this? So that was always at the back of my mind, and it had been for years actually. But I just kind of like,
you shrug it off, don't you?
Yeah, I just think, well, I'll go with the majority. I mean, how can it be wrong?
Right.
Everyone does it.
Everyone does it.
How can it be wrong? My parents owned a butcher's shop.
Yeah,
they're good people.
Yeah, it's a legal practice as well. So how can it be wrong?
Yeah. So but it always just didn't sit right, and I was just kind of like, oh well, crack on, and then I think probably meeting you, talking to you, maybe kind of triggered that interest a bit more, and then obviously I watched that documentary Dominion, which it was like a switch in my head.
Yeah.
So I watched that documentary in July 2022, and I haven't eaten meat since. And it just coincidentally, I had my bloods done, and I had to go through my WhatsApp messages to work this out when I had the epiphany, if that's the right word.
Yeah.
To work out when I shared Dominion to somebody else to see when did I watch Dominion. And then I looked on my NHS app to see when I had my bloods checked. And I got my bloods checked.
That was it.
Just after watching Dominion, I think. And that was because I'd had a funny turn. Funny turn, it's like something my dad would say. But I had like a funny turn. Basically, my vision went really blurry and I couldn't see, and I ended up going to the doctors and getting referred to the hospital. Had every check going possible. Still didn't know what it was, by the way. But anyway, one thing that did get flagged up is I had high cholesterol, which was really annoying. Not really high. I say not considered high cholesterol, but higher than where they'd want it to be.
Yeah.
And I was like, I exercise so much. My diet is healthy other than large volumes of food. I eat generally the right foods, which was really weird. Anyway, went vegan. 6 months later, went back for the bloods to be done again, because that's what they do. They do a 6 month, come back in 6 months to see if anything's changed. Cholesterol's now super low, good where it should be.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, okay. And then that's when I started doing it. Oh, hang on a minute. This is obviously I haven't eaten meat for the last 6 months. So that's when I looked at the timeline and realised the only significant thing that's changed is I stopped eating meat.
Yeah.
And I spoke to Samantha, my wife, diabetes specialist nurse, and I showed her the data and I said, is that typical for somebody's cholesterol to drop that rapidly in such a short space of time? And she said, no, it's not.
Yeah.
So, I was like, holy crap. Look, I didn't do it for health reasons, but that was a really nice, icing on the cake. I was like, oh my God, this is going to be so much better for my health. So anyway, just to correct you there, George, it was for the moral reasons, but now I'm like health all the way.
Absolutely. And I think the thing with high cholesterol as well is that it creeps up over time, and it can be decades, and for other people it's not as long. But what will happen is, you're certainly healthy, you're trying to eat healthy, you're exercising all the time, but it would just keep creeping up and up and up and up. And your early 40s now, maybe in your early 70s, you might have had a stroke or a heart attack, and you'd have just gone down as another statistic and just, he had a heart attack. Yeah, but he was really healthy. He was really, he's always in the gym. Oh yeah, it just happens.
Yeah.
But actually...
Just bad luck.
Just bad luck, right? But 1 in 3 people die from heart attacks, right? In the UK. Most people eat meat, right? And I'm not saying it's solely down to that, but it's a big reason why most people are getting high cholesterol.
There's generally, in true vegan style, by the way, we're sat here, it's actually yucking it down with rain.
To the point where, I think it's going to pass. There's a giant cloud over us.
I reckon we keep going for a bit.
Yeah.
You generally make the transition for one of 3 reasons. You either want to do it because you think it's going to be great for the planet, you think it's going to be great for animals, or you think it's going to be great for you.
Yep.
And in fact, you're getting all 3 of those.
Covers all 3, yeah.
But one of those is going to motivate you more than the other.
Yep.
So if anyone's listening to this and you're curious, look at that, it's just passed, and now there's a beautiful rainbow in the background. It's such a shame we're not filming this.
I know, mate. We were in 2 minds on whether or not to film. We were like, let's just do the audio, but it's stunning out here.
Yeah, this is great. Whether you're thinking, okay, I want to do this, and I'd imagine most people listening to a podcast that is about how to become a personal trainer and how to help clients are probably very health orientated.
Yeah.
There's a good chance they might start dipping into this side and transitioning for health reasons. So let's focus on that.
Yeah.
So your guys, the ones that already are vegan, you probably don't have to convince too hard about staying vegan.
Yeah.
But the ones that are sort of transitioning, do they ask you the question, what about the protein? Like, how am I going to build muscle if I'm not getting protein from animal products?
Yeah, surprisingly nowhere near as much as I thought they would, and I think that is just because after seeing me, probably after watching some of the documentaries that we've seen, there are tons of vegan influencers and bodybuilders out there now that for my generation, they're not as concerned about it. I think they realise now that you can absolutely get adequate protein from the most regular foods out there. Even like fruit and vegetables can contain protein. Not a lot, but some. Even just having oatmeal in the morning with some nuts and seeds, right? Tons of protein in there. However, there are still some people who are mindful or concerned about how much protein they're going to get. But if you look at the largest land animals in nature, the biggest ones, your elephants, your hippos, your gorillas, these land animals, they're all herbivores, right? So they only consume plant matter. So humans are the same. We can consume only plants and get adequate protein to maintain muscle mass and size, just like herbivorous animals do. So that's kind of the road that I take people down. There's some fantastic books out there that I recommend as well. The China Study is a really good one. I love that book. It talks a lot about protein. It also talks about how a lot of us are overly concerned with protein and that we consume protein in excess and the complications of eating too much protein. And I remember we was speaking briefly earlier about when you used to eat tons and tons of protein, like 300 grams a day, versus now when you're on 50, 60 grams of protein a day.
Yeah, probably.
And
there'll probably be days where it might even hit 40.
Yeah, 40 grams of protein a day, and your frame is the same. Protein is always changing. Recently, a little while back, a few decades ago, they believed that you need 1 pound of protein per pound of body weight to build muscle. Now it's changed to 1 gram of protein per kilo. So that's come down significantly. So already they've admitted that, we're a little bit wrong about that whole 1 gram, 1 pound thing. Now they're saying 1 gram, 1 kilo. Well, in another decade, is it going to come down even more? How far is it going to come down until we realise humans don't need anywhere near as much protein as we're being told that we do? Protein sells, right? It's in all the supplements. It's one of those things that we really think that we need in our diet. Anything that has protein on it, go in the supermarket, you'll see it. Protein peanut butter, protein flapjacks, protein water is one as well. Anything that has protein before it, like if you're in the supermarket and there's two loaves of bread, one says bread and one says protein bread, you're naturally going to think that the protein bread is healthier, which is not the case at all. So it sells, and I think that's why they push it so hard. But in my experience, even though it's anecdotal, in your experience, even though it's anecdotal, we maintain our muscle mass on a relatively low protein diet.
But there are, I mean, when you start digging around, there are thousands of examples of people that are living great, healthy lives and are lean, strong, muscular on a vegan diet. And some big authorities, so things have started to change because some big authorities have started to speak up about this. And that's what it takes, isn't it, before people start listening?
Yeah.
Like now, so the World Health Organization have said you can live a very, very healthy existence on a vegan diet. The NHS have said this.
Yeah.
And then I know you've listened to the Zoe podcast, and they are doing some brilliant research into everything, all things nutrition. And they're not so if you haven't listened to them, check them out. They're not actually a vegan podcast. They're a nutrition podcast, and they have questioned this protein number, and they talk about the recommended daily allowance as well for not just protein but for everything. Like when they work out the RDAs for different nutrients and things. It's all based on looking at the population and working out what is going to meet the needs of the majority of the population. And some of those figures are kind of misinterpreted anyway, but most of us don't need to hit that number because we're not necessarily in that part of the population. So they what they'll do is they'll give you a number that means that 98% of the population are going to be fine if they hit that number, but most of us don't need anywhere near that amount. So there's it's not just us that's saying this. There's lots of people out there.
Definitely.
Everyone seems to have an ulterior motive when it comes to making recommendations about what you should be eating.
Right.
And from what I can tell, people like Zoe, the stuff that they're coming out with doesn't seem to have as many underlying agenda as many others. So
Right, exactly.
I think we can be a bit much more trustworthy at the moment. And if they're saying, look, it's really overrated, hitting 50, 60 grams of protein a day is adequate for everyone's needs, whether you're trying to build muscle or not.
Yeah, more than enough.
Then
I've seen it everywhere in so many people, and I fluctuate all the time. Like, with my protein, sometimes I'll increase it, sometimes I'll decrease it. There's just no change in my physique.
No.
None. The only time, and this is so freaking important, the only time I see a change in my physique is when I up or lower my calories. And I think that people need to be so much more concerned by how many calories they're consuming each day versus how much protein they're consuming each day. And look at it in meals. Like, if you're trying to bulk up or whatever, and you're eating 5, containers a day full of food, it's like, you don't need to worry if one of those is, a rice curry dish that has no, quote, protein in it, which it will. Like, rice has protein, the lentils and chickpeas and stuff that's in the curry will have protein, and it's actually very difficult to get a, quote, protein deficient meal. And the whole protein deficiency, by the way, there's actually no such thing. Did you know that? There's no such thing as a protein deficiency. There's a thing as being deficient in certain nutrients, but the actual term protein deficiency, it's not like a medical claim. You can't go to the doctor and they're like, oh, you are protein deficient.
Right.
Which
Interesting.
So people are terrified about that. What if I become deficient in protein? As long as you're eating 3 meals a day, it's impossible. Like, literally impossible.
Isn't it nice not having to worry about it now?
Yeah.
Just eating and not having to worry about, are you hitting your protein goal?
So nice.
Just frees up that mind to focus on more important things.
It does, and that's what I say to the people that I train. I say, although nutrition is super important, you don't need to worry about it anywhere near as much as they're telling you do. This is how I do it. This is how it works. They follow along and they get awesome results.
Yeah. It's funny because Dan John, who's a strength and conditioning coach in the States, he's actually, I'm pretty sure he's actually an RE teacher, but he's also the coach at the university teaches, S&C coach. He written a lot of books. He was Highland Games champion several times, so he's an athlete himself, but he's got like over 30 years experience working in the industry, so he knows what he's doing. He said that he's been in the industry for 30 years, and he's now finding he's gone all the full circle. He's gone all the way back to teaching what he learned in his first couple of years as a coach, which is the basics of strength training. That's what he teaches. And he said everything else on top is just fluff and waffle and nonsense.
Yep.
Now, I remember when I first started getting into this whole health and fitness thing, I'd have been a teenager. And you're going to laugh at this, but this would have been before the internet, or just at the cusp of it kind of being a thing.
You're an absolute dinosaur, mate. How are you even alive?
And I would get my knowledge from reading. Have you heard these books? I don't know if you've.
They had books when you were a child.
There was books.
Wow.
Yeah, they had books. So anyway, so I'd read books, and the books on nutrition back then, there's nothing to do with the science. It was all just like the ones I read anyway. It was all just get your food from single ingredient and natural
foods.
like stuff that doesn't have labels on it. Is really uncomplicated. If it's got an ingredient you don't know what it is, don't have it. It was all like that, really. And there was nothing about counting calories. There was nothing about working out your macros. It was always just eat good, wholesome food.
Yep.
And it'll all just take care of itself.
100%.
And anyway, where I was going with this is, if you listen to some of the science that's emerging now and some of the stuff that's been talked about, like with ultra processed being a bad thing, etc., what it really translates as is that first bit of advice that I read all those years ago was, don't worry about counting calories or your macros, and just pick single ingredient foods and avoid all these weird like named preservatives and additives and everything else. And that's exactly what they're telling us now to do, isn't it?
100%, mate. And then you end up just naturally living a healthy life. Like, you can't overeat single ingredient foods. Like, who overeats on apples? Who overeats on jacket potatoes, or sweet potatoes or broccoli? You can't overeat this stuff. Your body recognizes it as real food and sends a signal to your brain the moment it's had enough of that nutrient or that certain amount of calories. So if you're eating broccoli, you'll you'll want to receive a certain amount of nutrition from it, or for example calcium, right? So you're eating broccoli. Once you've got enough calcium from that broccoli, your body's like, we're done, we're cool, move on to something else. You eat some sweet potato and you'll be eating that, and you'll be trying to get some potassium. Or, by the way, potatoes contain everything that you need to actually survive. So you can literally live off potatoes. It's the one food in the world that humans can live off.
And people were hating on potatoes for a while, weren't they? Do you remember that? That might have been, again, another one before the internet. I don't know.
Yeah, that was the whole carbs are bad for you thing.
But I think it was because as well, the rate that they raise your blood sugar so quickly and things like that. But I kind of feel like a lot of that stuff that was talked about, and still is you're avoiding the actual heart of the issue. So like if someone says, oh well, actually, like you just said, you can't overeat on potatoes, someone would be like, well, I can smash through 2 or 3 jagged potatoes in a sitting. Yeah, but when you add
what's
all
on
the
it,
salt,
right,
the butter, the cheese,
right,
that makes that then sends your taste buds wild, and you will keep going. But if you have things in that more simplest form, I mean, people listen to this and going to be like, so what you're saying is have really bland, boring food. Once upon a time, it wouldn't be bland and boring.
No,
it's because now you've got used to all this extra stuff, like the sugar, the salt, the fat. It's making it taste so wonderful.
Once upon a time, food was fuel, not pleasure seeking, right? And you hit the nail on the head the other week when you were talking to me about this. Literally what you just said. There's so many foods out there that, yes, are a little bit more bland, but then you stop eating them once you've had enough of it, and you get that clear hunger signal that cuts off once you've consumed enough. But when you start adding, like you say, the salt, the additives, the colorings, the sweeteners, the stuff that makes it so much more pleasurable and tricks our body into thinking that it wants more, that's how we put on the weight, that's how we start overeating, etc., etc. And then suddenly people say, oh, it's when I go to McDonald's, I just hate the bun. The bun is what makes me fat. It's the carbs from the bun, or it's the potatoes. It's the skin on the potatoes. Have you heard that? The skin on the potatoes are bad for you. It's like people are very quick to attack what's natural and defend what man made, when the reverse is what's true. Yeah, man comes along quite a lot and ruins things. But I say this with my online clients all the time. It's like, you eat natural, healthy, whole foods. And I've worked with people who have reversed diabetes and other illnesses, right? And they do that and they lift weights, they'll get an awesome body. If they want to get even bigger, eat more of those whole foods. Eat more rice, eat more potatoes. Yes, it will be harder because you might have to force feed a little bit. You might not be as hungry. You can start blending some shakes up and eating more oatmeal and whatever else. Guess what happens? You get bigger. You don't get more fat, you get bigger. You get more muscular, you get more strong. The moment you start throwing in these processed foods and having a cheesecake as a cheat meal and eating pizza to bulk up, you're going to get fat. That's how it works.
They call it a dirty bulk, don't they?
Dirty bulk, yeah.
Dirty bulk. The problem is with the dirty bulk is obviously you then have to lose it, which is then really difficult and challenging.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think I might have even suggested this to people in the past, where if you're tracking everything on MyFitnessPal and you're entering as long as you're hitting your protein goal and you're getting enough calories, you'll get the results, and you do. The problem is you're always a little bit hungry. So if you're trying to lose weight and you're eating whatever you want, as long as you're getting your protein goal, then everything else kind of, you can have what you like. In theory, yeah, you're going to get leaner. But the problem is you're always fighting these flipping cravings and you're always a little bit hungry. Whereas we did that experiment recently, didn't we? Where we made some really good, nutritious food with literally nothing in. So we basically had quinoa. The only thing added was a vegetable stock cube, quinoa, chickpeas. We put some herbs in there, sweet corn, and some other like chopped up vegetables and stuff. And it was delicious. Well, to us it was delicious. To others it would have been bland, I expect. But you couldn't eat too much of it.
No.
And then working out the calories, and the calories were so low.
Nothing.
Because our body, obviously our brain, when you've got all the nutrition you need out of that, you can now stop. And it switched off our cravings.
Yep.
Whereas even if we just added some like oil to that, it would have made it taste even nicer, which meant we potentially would have eaten more of it.
Potentially so, yeah. And you get it with foods that have no nutrition in them as well. Like, I don't know, Pringles, for example. Like, you can smash a pack of Pringles or a pack of Jaffa Cakes.
Jesus,
it's because your body's like, okay, we found some food, we're eating this food, it's got nothing in it, let's keep going until we finally get what we want. And you never get what you want. And then you'll have a bit of a crash and you'll feel terrible for it. And the cycle repeats, and they also put stuff in there to make you addicted to it as well, so you want more and more and more. But that's why I say you can't overeat on natural whole foods.
It's really hard, isn't it? Really hard.
You
like broccoli. Like people said that all the time. No one ever overate on broccoli until we started dumping butter on it.
Butter, yeah,
and
lard,
everything else, yeah.
Gravy, even gravy. You know, smothering a roast dinner with gravy, you'll eat more of it than if you don't. And it while yes, it will be more bland. It's not just the fact that it's bland.
Yeah,
it's
you have to be so careful with things like condiments, don't you? Condiments like sauces and stuff.
Yeah, and
they just make everything taste so great, so then you eat loads more of it.
But this is the thing as well. If you follow the 80-20 rule, which is, and I think this is so important, and I advertise or advise this, to people. Do that 80% of the time, and then 20% of the time, definitely have a treat. Have a couple glasses of wine if you want. You know, have that cheesecake after your meal. Go out with the lads and have a pizza if you want. Life doesn't have to be boring if you think those foods are boring, which me and you don't, because we've been doing it for so long and we actually really enjoy it, and it makes us not want to eat those other foods because we know how bad they are for us. But, you know, when we talk about...
Sorry, I just need to step in there. You said me and you. I'd just like to point out that you are way better at this than me. And you've got the physical conditioning to show for it.
Thank you, mate. No, I would say you do as well. You're way better at that.
Oh, stop it.
I mean, you're so much better than me, John.
I've got some catching up to do. Anyway,
you've cut out...
I'm just trying to manage the expectations of anyone that's listening to this that might bump into me and be like, hang on a minute.
Oh, no. John beats himself up whenever he does something good like this. You feel like you need to go above and beyond, but you're doing great, mate. You're eating really healthy. You've cut down on your alcohol significantly. And I'd say...
now everyone thinks I'm a recovering alcoholic. Cheers, George.
Yeah, I'm doing quite well here, aren't I? Let's keep going. And you should definitely sign up to Storm Fitness Academy. But no, it's... Yeah, so essentially, mate, like, if people want to do that 80-20 thing and they don't want to cut out all bad food, then don't, because they are enjoyable. They are fun to eat from time to time, and it keeps you sane, because like we were saying earlier, when you go to the non-vegan restaurant and you have to ask for either a vegan menu or to make something more vegan, you feel a bit awkward, right? And it's the same with being 100% whole foods and healthy. It's like, if you want to have a bit of bad food occasionally, even if it just makes you feel better to fit in with people, then definitely do it, because the only person it's harming is you. Whereas with the vegan thing, without going too far into it, you know, there's other beings involved.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, like if you're at it's your daughter's birthday party, she's like, "Daddy, piece of cake." You know, you don't want to be like,
"Don't go, halt, darling."
Yeah, exactly.
I will not be putting that in my temple.
How dare you,
vile?
Yeah,
I was gonna swear then. But
anyway. You're like, do you realise how bad that is for me? Take that away.
Yeah.
No, you're going to want to enjoy it with her and enjoy the day. So
yeah.
So summing up the nutrition then there, George, which is great, is basically, if you work with George, if you're an aspiring vegan or you're already vegan, you want to work with George to build some muscle, well, you can definitely do it on a vegan diet. Him and his clients are proof of that. But if you want to start digging around, there's plenty of evidence out there that will reinforce that anyway.
Yeah, The Game Changers is a really good documentary if you're feeling a bit unsure about it. It's on Netflix. There's a second one coming out soon, which is awesome.
Yeah, it's a motivating documentary, that one, isn't it? It's just a good watch. It's fun, isn't it? Yeah. It's a fun documentary too.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're good examples there. So now we'll just put nutrition aside for a sec. Let's just talk about training. So you're helping guys build muscle. Yep. They might in the past have gone, I've tried to build muscle in the past, but I've never managed to achieve it. Have you got there's some principles, or there's some things that you'd say, look, if you want to build muscle, this is some key things you think about?
Yeah, because everyone's got a different timetable, I had to come up with a program that would work for everyone. And there's some trainers out there who straight away will think to themselves, that's that's ridiculous, George. You can't have everyone training the same. Everyone needs a specific, customized workout plan. And I'm very happy to tell them that you absolutely don't. And I know you know this. If everyone trains in a certain way, they will get similar results. Genetics come into play. So, one person might end up looking a bit better than the other person in terms of muscle development by the end of it. But that will be solely down to genetics. As long as they're training the same, then they're going to get similar results. We focus mostly on full body workouts, simply because the way I've designed it is that if you train twice a week, you'll get great results. If you train 3 times a week, 4 times, 5 times, doesn't matter, you're always going to be hitting every single muscle group. And there's so much scientific evidence to back up that is the optimal way to train for maximal muscle groups, muscle growth, sorry. So rather than doing like back and biceps, chest and triceps, legs, shoulders and abs, we're doing full body compound movements as often as they like. If they want to do it once a week, twice a week, 5 times, doesn't matter. Obviously, the more you train, the better results you're going to get. I take into account your body type as well, if you're an ectomorph, mesomorph, endomorph, and we'll customize their program and their nutrition based on that as well, because they might need to do it a little bit more often or a little bit less. Like the ectomorph who's really struggling to put on some size doesn't need to be training 5-6 times a week. He can just stick with 2 or 3 times to start with and focus more on the nutrition. Whereas the mesomorph, he can easily train 5 times a week and very quickly get in unreal shape. So we focus on compounds, we do full body, and we're hitting every muscle group every session. So I'd say that's the difference between training with myself and potentially other people out there.
Yeah, that sounds great. There's a program that I followed. It was actually written by, I'm pretty sure it was Nick Mitchell from UP Fitness, which in a recent podcast I interviewed a friend of mine, Alex Butt. Oh, you've met Alex, haven't you? You met Alex. And he used to work at UP Fitness, and the guy that owned UP Fitness wrote this program, and it's a total body workout 4 times a week. And I remember the first time I saw it, it was like, wait, what? You're going to do total body back to back without a day's rest? No, because that was contrary to what I'd been taught.
Yeah.
And anyway, so I thought, well, this guy seems to know what he's doing. So I followed the program, and I loved it. It was brilliant. It was basically Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday off, Thursday, Friday, total body workout. And I got great results. Yeah, really good results. So I'm a big advocate of that type of training now. Yeah,
massively. And I think especially if you don't have the time to train 5 times a week, even if you train twice a week and you're hitting a full body twice a week, that's great. You're still going to get awesome results. So I wanted to make it suitable for everyone's needs, and the results speak for themselves. I don't it's not mandatory, you don't have to do this, but I always advise people taking before and after photos, simply because everyone who hasn't taken a before photo always regrets it later down the line. They think, why didn't I take some before pictures? And the results absolutely speak for themselves. It's how I train as well. It's how I've been training for a long time. And I remember I showed you that video a few years ago about full body workouts and the science behind it as well. Hitting the same muscle group for a certain amount of sets and reps throughout the week is far better for muscle growth than hitting them once a week. But when you actually hit them multiple times in the week, that's when they do the most amount of growing. It's like anything else in life. When you're a tennis coach, I bet the more your clients showed up to practice, the better they got, because they were doing it more often.
That's a good example. If we only practice our tennis serves on a Monday, but we practice the tennis serve for 2 hours on a Monday, it would probably been better to have practiced the tennis serve for 20 minutes on a Monday, but do it again on a Wednesday and a Friday.
Exactly that, and
it seems to be similar, doesn't it, for muscle, for strength as well, but also muscle growth, which kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah, that's the exact blueprint that I use.
I love the simplicity as well to the direction that you're going with not just your training but also nutrition, because I know when we've talked about this in the past, essentially what you're saying is eat the foods that nature intended, single ingredient, unprocessed foods, and if you want to lose weight, it should just take care of itself anyway, because you won't overeat if you eat Eat your food as intended. If you want to get bigger, eat more.
Yep.
Don't overcomplicate it. Just eat more of the good stuff.
Absolutely.
And then with training, it's like hit the major muscles and movement patterns of the body at least twice a week. If you want to get bigger or stronger, do it more.
That's it.
It's pretty simple, isn't it, when you lay it out that way? And I think in the complicated worlds that we all live in, busy lives that we have, simple approaches like that are quite attractive, aren't they?
They really are. Yeah, it all comes back down to what's natural and simple. Never has to be complicated, and I think that's what a lot of online coaches and social media influencers and stuff thrive off now, is overcomplicating things so that people are left just so in the dark that they don't know what to do or where to go or what they should be doing. And that's why diets are a thing. That's why people try that diet on Monday, that diet the following Monday. Next year they're on the Atkins diet, and then they're on the paleo diet, and they're doing all these different diets. And they might even try a vegan diet, but it doesn't last for long because they don't really know what they're doing. They'll try this diet, that diet, and they just want to lose weight and they don't know how, and they try all these different diets. But diets doesn't need to be a thing. There isn't a single animal other than the human animal, not one, that dips around on different diets. They have their species specific diet, and that's it. Humans are the only ones that are confused by it, which is very interesting. But when you look into the just eating natural, healthy, organic fruit and veg from the earth, humans absolutely thrive.
It's too much information out there. I'm blaming the internet, George. It was a better time before that came along.
It's a better time when you were a child scratching your engravings onto the cave wall.
It's so rude.
And true.
Right, so take home messages from everything you've said so far. When it comes to working with somebody that is vegan or aspiring vegan, you're definitely getting enough protein from eating plant-based food.
Any plant-based food will get you some protein.
If you want to get lean, focus on plant-based food.
Absolutely, yeah.
If you want to be good for your health, focus on plant-based food. That's what I'm hearing here, George.
That's it, mate. That is literally it. If you are struggling to lose weight, have your 3 meals a day, but make sure that they're natural, whole food, single ingredients. You will lose weight. The only way you won't is if you've messed up your metabolism. And there's so many ways that I could go into with that. You can always go on my YouTube channel, George Horlock, or my Instagram, George Holistic, and you can direct message me if you want to go more into that, because that's where it does get a little bit more complicated. But if you are just a regular person, not on any sort of like medication or things that can affect that, you will absolutely lose weight if you just consume a healthy, whole food, plant-based diet. If you want to put on muscle, do the same thing, but eat a little bit more. And that's it. And then lift heavy shit, as me and you have always said. Just lift heavy shit, and you will get. Your body has to build muscle if you're lifting heavy stuff.
Yeah, if you keep turning up. I remember this one lad back in the day when I worked in a gym. He used to come up to me every week going, "Program's not working."
Every week.
I'm like, "How long has it been? You've been here twice, I think, since last week." But I always used to be like, "Okay, what are you eating?" And he used to tell me everything he was eating, and I'd be like, eat more of it.
Yep.
I'm like, what are you training? And he'd be like, I'm training twice a week or whatever it was. I'd be like, train more.
Mate, so
eat more,
true.
train more.
No, that is absolute spot on advice.
You want to lose weight, eat less, train more.
Mate, this is the scary thing. I think everyone deep down knows how to get their desired physique. It's showing up,
and just adhering to it.
And that's some of the feedback that I get from the guys I coach, is that they say, you know, having the accountability now has been the most dramatic change in my life, even more so than getting this physique that I've always wanted, and the meals that you've suggested and the check-ins and stuff. They're like, just having someone there to say, how was your session today? How did you do today? Oh, I see that you missed out last Wednesday. Is everything okay? I got called into work late. Okay, no problem. Let's hit it again next Wednesday. What'd you get up to over the weekend? I had such a great smoothie in this new vegan cafe that I discovered. And it's great. And we just got accountability. And we're just always talking about it and always focusing on it and showing up. And like you say, if you want to get bigger or whatever, like, just train more, eat more, and that's it. That is literally it. But so many people will do that for 2 or 3 days and then stop for a week or 2 weeks and then go back to it for a little bit and then stop. On, off. It has to be consistent.
This is great, George. I'm really happy for you. Well, I'm happy for both of us, because I was kind of... we had, like I say, we had that phase where you created something and it was great on paper, but it just wasn't your true passion, was it? And now you are basically helping people that are very similar, are you, and you're Chris, you've met Chris as well.
Yeah.
Chris, and he was saying the other week about how a bit of advice to give to wannabe trainers, aspiring trainers, is find people that you love talking to and that you love helping.
Yeah.
And that's what you've done, isn't it?
Absolutely, mate. That's very good advice. And I would say that to any personal trainer listening right now. Don't ever feel bad or guilty if you're talking to someone with a specific goal and that goal doesn't interest you. There's actually nothing wrong with that. They might think, oh, I'm not a good personal trainer. But if you're talking to someone about fat loss and you couldn't care less about losing weight, talk to someone else. Advise them to speak to someone who specialises in fat loss.
That's great advice.
And same with anything. If there's someone who you're training and, they want to train for a specific sport that you have no interest in that sport, you're not the best trainer for them. It's that simple. Whereas if there's someone who's trying to build muscle on a vegan diet, they are perfect for me.
Yeah,
absolutely perfect. Yeah. I could talk to them all day about it.
That's so good. I love that. Yeah, because if someone said I want to get really muscly, and they go, but I have no intentions of stopping eating meat. Don't talk to George.
No, talk to someone. Exactly. Talk to someone else.
Yeah. And it's not a problem.
No,
it's just
that's you.
No, I'm not right for you.
Absolutely.
It's very true, isn't it? Because what about if you wanted to get financial advice off someone? So you're not going to talk to someone that's broke for a start. You're going to talk about someone that's got money. But then what about if, like for me, if I wanted to get proper filthy rich, I'm not going to go to somebody that has got themselves filthy rich and done it as a single person and had no family.
Yep.
I'm going to want to talk to somebody that's had a family, kept it.
Just
by the skin of their teeth. No. They've still had a happy marriage, and they've been a good father.
Work-life balance.
Yeah, they've had a good work-life balance whilst getting filthy rich.
Yeah.
I would want to talk to that person. I'd like to have a conversation with.
Yeah.
But if they've done it all, and as a result they no longer have a happy marriage and they don't have a very good relationship with the kids, I couldn't care less. I don't want to talk to them.
Exactly, mate. And this is exactly what you talk about in your Bulletproof Business course, which really helped me and helped my partner Grace Murray Art on Instagram. She does fantastic art pieces.
Shameless plug.
She's not.
That's all right. Keep going, mate. I'm joking. Keep going. Say it again in case people didn't hear it. What was it?
That was funny. Grace Murray Art on
Grace
Instagram.
Murray Art.
She's not even in the fitness world, and she benefited from your online course, and I watched that as the first thing I watched before we had our business consultations. And you talk about the difference between generalizing and specializing, and when we generalize, we advertise ourselves as somebody who can help anyone with any problem. The issue with that is if we do get someone who comes along and we have no interest in their goals, we're not going to enjoy our job, because you're having to deal with someone and try and help someone who you're not interested in. And again, that sounds bad, but it's not. It's a human thing. It's someone who's not interested in cars having to listen to a mechanic podcast. It's going to be the worst thing in the world, right? And you get that in the personal training world. Just because you're a personal trainer doesn't mean that you need to help everyone with every problem that relates to fitness. You might want to go down the route of being more of a holistic coach, as I see that I am, looking at all aspects of fitness. But when you specialize, that's when you say, okay, I love fitness, I love being a personal trainer, but within the realm of fitness, this is my niche, this is who I like to work with. And then profiting off of that and helping people through that avenue.
Yeah, brilliant.
And you get it with and there's so many things as well that I see, where people think, oh, I shouldn't do that. But if you're a woman and you only want to work with female clients, do it. If you're a man and you only want to work with male clients, do it. If you want to work with a certain age range, men over 50, whatever you like, it can work perfectly for you, and you'll be so much more happier. And that's what being a personal trainer is all about, because the clue is in the word. It's personal, right? It's a personal thing. It's not I help anyone with any problem. It's I personally help people with a specific issue.
Yeah, and again, anyone listening who's going, oh, but, you know, I don't know who I want to work with yet. Now, if you haven't even started doing your training or getting your qualifications, then don't worry about it. You know, you got plenty of time to figure that stuff out. And if you've recently qualified and you still haven't figured it out, don't worry about it. George, how long have you been working in the industry? 10 years, was it?
I was about to say, I was a successful PT for 10 years, and I was helping anyone with any problem. I wasn't specialised at all.
No.
I didn't have a specific niche of people. I was helping everyone with any problem.
But now, as somebody that's specialising, you get a lot more job satisfaction.
I enjoy it more. I still enjoyed personal training, but you would get those clients who turn up and, you know, you don't really know what to talk about, because their goal is just not in your realm of specialties, you know. Like, I don't have the knowledge on that because I haven't fully looked into that.
Yeah. And now you stand a very, very good chance of becoming a known authority in that area.
That's it, yeah.
It's a lot easier, isn't it, to become an expert in a niche area than it is to become an expert in everything.
Yeah, and especially if you can relate to your clients as well, because if I get a 55-year-old woman coming through the door who's going through the menopause and she's struggling to lose weight and all of this, I could certainly help her, but I can't relate. I have no idea what that feels like, and I never will. Whereas if I get an underweight vegan guy, and he's 19, 20 years old, and he comes in and he's underweight and he's not feeling good about himself, and he says, I just want to build muscle, I've no idea how to do it, I'm never going to stop being vegan, I love eating my vegan foods and stuff, I need help, mate, I'm your guy.
Yeah.
You know?
So I'm an overweight 44-year-old vegan, and you can't relate to that, so why am I even bothering talking to you? On that note,
mate, I mean, that your words, not mine.
Right. On that note, let's wrap things up then. So thank you very much, George. Love chatting to you as always. Keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you, mate.
And we'll get you back on, and we'll talk about some hot topics, I reckon. So we know a bit more about George Horlock coaching, but it'd be cool to talk a bit more about some controversial topics in the fitness industry, perhaps.
Love to talk about that.
Like AI. Is AI going to take our job? No.
Is AI going to take our job? Supplements. Like, there's so many things that we can talk about that I'd love to talk about with you, mate. Let's do it. And
We'll save it. Sounds
brilliant.
Awesome. Right. Thank you, George. Enjoy your day, mate.
See you, mate.
Bye. Now, if you enjoyed today's episode, something you can do for me is subscribe to my show. And if you know anyone else that might be interested in this content, then please share it with them too. You can also head over to our socials and follow us on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook and YouTube. But if you're ready to take that next step, visit our website, www.stormfitnessacademy.co.uk, fill out a contact form, that will come straight to me. I will contact you shortly afterwards, and I look forward to speaking to you then.